Hey, what's up everybody, and today I have a brand new warlock build for you within Season of the Seraph. And we're going to be focusing on Shade Binder for this build, and its interactions with a weapon called Ager Scepter, one of the first, arguably 3.0 exotics. So let's talk about it just a little bit, and how to make it better for boss damage, champion clear, and just general ad clear too. So anyways, let's just get right into it. Starting off, we're going to talk about our subclass and how we're going to configure it. First, let's use cold snap grenades. Basically, we're going to be using osmiomancy gloves, and I'll get into more of the why here in a minute. But next are aspects of Bleak Watchers and Glacial Harvest. You could swap out Bleak Watchers for Ice Flare Bolts and change a couple other things about this build like osmiomancy gloves. But I believe that Bleak Watchers are great for this build, as we're going to be using Monochromatic Maestro, a brand new seasonal artifact mod which increases your weapon damage of the matching type of your subclass if you do ability damage, and vice versa. Well, Bleak Watchers do count for that buff, so you'll have a 10% buff anytime Bleak Watchers hit anything, extending that duration and applying slow stacks and freezing enemies sometimes. Plus, Glacial Harvest is going to give us a stasis shard every time we freeze an enemy, and that's going to be really important for this build. Next, let's talk about our fragments for a second. We got Whisper of Fissures, Conduction, Durance, and Bonds. That way our stasis shards come to us, which is amazing. That's a great help. Whisper of Fissures is going to increase the damage from our shatters, which is important on Ager Scepter because that's most of where its damage comes from. And then Durance will have Bleak Watchers out longer, and our slow effects will last longer. Honestly, the slow effects aren't that much of an important thing to have with this, but if you're using Bleak Watchers, it's always nice to have them out longer, especially since they give you Monochromatic Maestro. And then Bonds, it's going to give us super energy a little bit faster. That's the only reason I have it there. Now, that's our subclass. That's all we need to talk about there. Again, for exotics, we're running Ager Scepter as our exotic weapon, and Osmiomancy Gloves as our exotic armor piece. There's a couple other ones that work too. Watch Imagine's video over the whole DPS thing about Ager Scepter. It's a way better video than this over what we're doing with Agers. He suggests you use Transversive Steps because every 7 seconds you could just reload it. Which, yeah, that's going to be great, but I chose Osmiomancies just because if I need to freeze a group of enemies real quick, I could do it if I'm low on ammo in my Ager Scepter, or I'm saving it for boss damage or champion killing. So I can just whip out Osmiomancies, throw out a Cold Snap, freeze a bunch of enemies, or I could use a Bleak Watcher in that case. But yeah, let's get into our armor mods. We're going to start with our combat style mods, and I chose to do a hybrid between Elemental Wells and Charge with Light. So first we have High Energy Fire. It's a Charge with Light mod that's going to increase our damage a little bit. Now we're going to pair that with Font of Might, which is a Elemental Well mod that also increases our damage, and those two damage buffs stack, and they also both stack with Monochromatic Maestro. All three of those will stack together. I did try this with Mantle of Battle Harmony, and it doesn't stack with that, because that is also an empowerment buff, just like High Energy Fire. So you could use that instead, but you would need to have an add around to trigger absorption cells to allow you to deal more damage. So High Energy Fire is just going to be the better bet. So going on, Protective Light is between this and Well of Tenacity, and it's just easier to get Protective Light applied to you than it will be for you to get a Void Elemental Well with this build. So next we have Elemental Charge. That's what's going to let our Elemental Wells get us Charged with Light. And then the fifth and final one, Elemental Shards. That's the only way we're going to be making wells, is just going to be our shards. And they're going to gravitate towards us because of Whisper of Conduction. So we have stasis shards every time we freeze a target, and they track towards us, and they give us ability energy other than just melee. Plus, they give us a damage buff, and another damage buff, and damage resistance. It's just great, honestly. Elemental Shards is one of the best combat mods in the game. Anyways, going on to some more generic armor mods that will pair very well with this build. Harmonic Siphon, because you're going to be using Ager Scepter, so multi-kills will drop orbs. Now, why is that important? The catalyst on Ager Scepter, if you hold reload, will make it do more damage. It slows on hit and freezes and shatters. So it drains your super energy while it does this. You have to be at full super to do it. But picking up orbs in the middle of it will extend the duration. So if you're making orbs while clearing out ads with it, that'll help you out. Just having more orbs there. That's going to be great for you. Next, just trace rifle mods. Whether it's reserves, scavenger, probably not holster or targeting or anything like that. I would stick to finder, scavenger, and reserves. Other than that, you really don't need them. And then, of course, one of the best mods in this monochromatic maestro, you need that for this to succeed, because that's an extra 10% damage every time you deal damage with an ability. And your abilities do more damage if you deal damage with Ager Scepter. It's just cyclical like that. It's great. And then finally, I wrote down low entropy right here, but there's two ways for stasis abilities to counter champions. Just pick one of those. And on your arms, I would slide in something to help you shut down champions. Here I had Overload Scout because I could run low entropy Superconductor to stun unstoppables with my melee, and then I had Overload Scout Rifle to deal with overloads. And honestly, stasis is just great at countering champions anyways, but it's best at countering shield anti-barriers. Barrier champions stand no chance against stasis, especially Shadebinders. They're about to pop their bubble, freeze them. That's it. They can't do anything. Freeze them, dump heavy, you're good. I was running a rocket launcher, which I know probably isn't the best. Reed's Regret or something like that would be better. But hey, run what you want to in the other slots. Your energy slot, that's going to be dealing with champions. And your heavy slot, probably a linear fusion rifle, fire and forget. Something like that. Something just to deal boss damage with other than Agers. Again, watch Imagine's video. It's way better. It gets into the all of the math of how this works. So yeah, again, thank you for watching, subscribing, liking, all those things. I do have a Discord server. Check out the pinned comment down below for that. And I think my Twitter is also there, but whatever. Anyways, yeah, thank you. See you next time.